wow, I just heard that Aussie50 committed suicide, and it's like, huh. I just want to say he was one of the biggest inspirations for my YouTube channel. I've said that multiple times because I started my YouTube channel in 2009, and I wasn't making any good videos because I didn't find a format until I found his videos in mid-2012, and I realized his format and presentation style was really meaningful and really, I liked watching it. I wanted to make videos like that. So I tried to do a carbon copy of his videos, but because I live in a different situation and I have a different personality, the videos came out, instead of as a carbon copy, they came out as my own kind of take on his formula. And so that kind of like, his videos gave me a kick to start down the path of creativity that I'm on now. But that being said, I will say, I grew up in the funeral industry, so my opinions on death are not quite emotional or mainstream. And I have a pretty close relationship to suicide, and so I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, it's so sad, it's so sad. No, what's sad is the fact that he couldn't find a solution other than suicide. And I can't quite find like what method he employed, because for instance, I have a lot of respect for someone that does a non-intrusive suicide. For instance, someone that does like hanging, gaseous suffocation. That's the one I was going to do. Or poison, I guess, but it still poisons the environment. Poison's not that great either because it's really slow. But I have a little bit less respect for someone, I mean, just slightly less respect for someone that does gunshot, because, well, undertakers have to deal with that if they want to show the body. And I've seen some pretty good reconstructions. Like, don't get me wrong, some of those undertakers are damn good at what they do and the embalming and stuff like that. But I also know, like, it's a lot of work to stitch someone back together, especially if they hit in the face. Oh my god. At least with a noose, you can just kind of like put the collar up or put a tie around their neck or something like that. But I have no respect for someone who commits suicide via jumping in front of a train or into oncoming traffic, or in some way that really, really traumatizes somebody. If you just find a dead body, like, oh, that's pretty bad. But that's not running someone over in your car. That's two very different things. And of course, in that instance, I'm definitely underestimating, because like I'm used to this. I'm used to death, and so I'm not quite afraid of that. So perhaps that is actually pretty traumatizing, just to see a dead body. I guess people just don't see dead bodies. But anyway, I would like to know a little bit more about that. But yeah, it's just overall very sad that he couldn't find a contenting life. And that's the saddest part. It's not sad now, because all I care about, I don't care that I'm not going to get to see videos. I care that he wasn't happy. All these people, like, and I might be going in circles because I have a lot to say, and I'm kind of like, but like, I have people that have told me, like, oh, you can't commit suicide, you make the best videos. It's like, is that seriously all I am, making videos? Like, people are so selfish. They think like, oh, you should stay alive because I like you. That's the fucking most selfish thing ever. If they are suffering, if you truly love them, if you truly care about them, you would want to make sure that they find whatever solution to life, whatever way to escape their torture they can. And a word just left my head. I just think that a lot of people are focusing on the selfish side, like, oh, it's so sad I won't get to see more Aussie50 videos, or I want to get to see him again. It's like, yeah, well, he won't get to see himself again because he couldn't find a good solution. And here's one thing, like, I'm going to start reviewing other people's videos. I know maybe you shouldn't do this, but hey, people joke around about funeral home stuff all the time where I come from. So Big Clive made a video. I don't really watch his stuff too much, but one thing kind of struck me odd in his video, that like he was going on about like how don't commit suicide, the depression will go away, it's only momentarily. It's like, you don't know that. Maybe you wanted to commit suicide once in your life and now you don't. But to say that not committing suicide, you will look back on that as foolish, or as like foolish if you had, that's survivor bias. That is survivor bias. Okay, here's an example of what survivor bias is. During World War II, a bunch of bombers would come back and, well, not as many as went out. They would lose a bunch of bombers, and the bombers that came back had bullet holes in certain locations. And so the engineers would put armor over those bullet holes on the planes they sent back out. And they kept losing planes until a mathematician came along and told them, don't put the armor where the bullet holes are in the surviving planes, put the armor where the bullet holes aren't. Because the other planes that are crashing and losing lives are getting hit at the other places and failing. And so they did that, and the amount of planes that they lost almost vanished, because it's survivor bias. And I honestly think that we as the living cannot talk down upon someone who commits suicide unless it's about the actual method in which they do it. But that's just because I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And one other thing, like, I always kind of feel a bit of weakness, or, yeah, I guess weakness. Because, like, of all the times, like, I have a pretty good follow-through with things. A really good follow-through. Like, I'd say 30% overall. Definitely followed through with this workshop build. But that 30% follow-through didn't carry over to suicide. And, like, judging by how many times I set my mind to it, you would think that 30% would yield a successful attempt, but it didn't. And so I think that I do have a lot of respect, because that takes a lot of guts to end it. People like to say it's cowardly. Like, that is not cowardly. That takes a lot of guts to kill yourself. I couldn't do it. And I couldn't do it so much that I actually set myself a suicide ultimatum. And I gave myself 10 years because I knew, like, I can't do it. So there's no reason to keep thinking about it. And I'm crazy at 17 years old to be trying so hard to do this or whatever. I don't want to get into it. That's old, boring stuff. But so I decided, like, oh, I'll just push it off in the future. Where in the future I'll have better follow through. But if I put it off in the future, it'll act as a motivation to change. And it did. And about 3 or 4 years in, I won my suicide ultimatum. Because I'm not going to commit suicide unless I get, like, Alzheimer's or some dementia or something like that. Like, that's always kind of on the table. Like, if my mind starts going when I'm 70, I would want someone to put me out of my misery. Okay, but that's a different thing. That's not depression or whatever. And I see a lot of people talking about this as if, like, oh, mental illness is such a bad thing. It's like, you don't know if it was mental illness. Sometimes life is just shit. And it kind of coincides with people being like, oh, it's such a surprise. It's like, was it really though? Like, he always, like, maybe that's why I found him so relatable, is because his videos always had a bit of a lowness to them. Like, oh, he didn't seem like someone who had everything that he wanted. And I could relate to that. And if I was going to bet on anything, I would probably bet, like, I don't know his personal life or anything like that, but I would probably bet, just like the cultural loneliness that we have these days probably played a big part, because we're really disconnected these days. And we don't have good social connections. And I could definitely see that playing a part. I lost my train of thought there. Wow. But yeah, I get it. And like a lot of people are like, oh, what's his name? I didn't really care for Big Clive's video, but this one kid, this one guy, Kyle Bishop, he did a really nice video. I liked his one. You should go watch that one. But one thing that he said kind of struck me odd, that I think might not be such an accurate approach to it. Like I think he said, like, I guess he just looked around the world and saw how shit things were. It's like, well, the outside world being pretty shit is one thing, but in order to actually commit suicide, you have to, like, for the most part, usually you would also have something in your personal sphere of living that has an effect on it, like just sheer loneliness. And if I didn't have to deal with like all the depression that I had from dinner dysphoria or whatever, then I would definitely probably be pretty depressed now. But now, like, the depression I feel over this like extreme loneliness is kind of like, well, it's nothing compared to what I had. So I'm kind of like, well, I can deal with this. I've dealt with that. I can deal with this. And I think people might overestimate the more tangible things to be depressed about. Like, oh, the world's in such a bad state. It's like, it kind of is, kind of not, and the world's okay. The world's actually, it's mixed. It's the world. It's mixed. But what's not in a good state are the social structures of us and how we deal with people. Like, for instance, most people don't have extremely close friends anymore because everyone's always moved around at a young age. It used to be that you would grow up in the same town as someone and you'd always be really good friends, but now people move around, they get shifted around schools, all that kind of stuff. So they can't develop like friendships since they were like 2 or 3. Sorry, so his suicide definitely does kill the day for me. And I'll definitely think back sadly like, oh, that's a real shame that he was having a hard time. I won't think back like, I wish I could see videos. I would be like, because like, at the end of the day, the videos don't matter. At the end of the day, it's Aussie50 that matters. It's the fact that he was having such a hard time, evidently. But, beside that sadness, I lost my fucking shit laughing at something that was the most inadvertent dark humor ever that I've seen. Now, of course, the most deliberate dark humor that's like, oh my god, that's the funniest ever, because I feel like a horrible person for laughing at it would be like the Arbeit macht frei, like over the concentration camp gates. It's like, oh my god, oh my god. When I first realized like, oh, I could read that, it's like, oh. But the best inadvertent humor, a dark joke, fucking dark as shit, and I love dark humor, is on Aussie50's latest video, which I still haven't watched, which I'm definitely going to be savoring it, this last Aussie50 video. Thank you very much, Aussie50, for making it before you died. Too bad it's only 2.5 minutes. I'm gonna really savor it. But, fuck, I'm about to cry. Holy shit. Lonesome Toast in the comment section a week ago, before Ozzy died, commented, keep it up, Ozzy, can't wait for the next one. I lost my fucking shit. I lost my fucking shit. It makes you feel bad for laughing. Oh my god. Oh my god. I just... Okay. I know I probably shouldn't even say that, but it's like one of those times where it's like you have to leave the room just to like laugh and then come back to be serious. It's like, that comment did not age well. Actually, no, it did age well. It did age well. It's kind of funny. I don't know, like, again, I grew up in the funeral industry. We buried them deeper, cheaper, and we have a lot of dark humor, and so that might be offensive to some, but I love myself some dark humor. And you know, I'm actually kind of happy, because I'm sad to look back and realize that he was suffering so much, but I am happy in a mixed way, or at least I'm not as sad about now, because I know at least he's not suffering now. And I also know, like, he also couldn't, like, he's also not alive, but sometimes the suffering outweighs the good in life, and it takes a lot of work to engineer your life to be good. A lot of work. It's not just something that goes away. It's not something you can just take a pill to fix. If your mind is telling you something is really, really wrong with your life, and just you need to fix something, something's wrong, anything, many things are wrong, you should heed that warning and not just let it build up and push you to stuff like that. Because a lot of people just seem to be depressed and continue doing the same thing over and over again and get into a rut. I definitely fell into that rut, and it was very difficult for me to get out. But a lot of people, I think we're kind of making our problem worse by giving people medication, like over-prescribing medication, because sometimes we just have to realize, like, hey, we need to rethink our society. We need to rethink a lot of things, and we need to remind people to rethink their lives, not be afraid to step away from responsibilities or gain new ones or whatever. Because a lot of people, I would assume, one aspect of their depression is they just feel trapped. They feel trapped in their life. And that is a horrible feeling whenever your gift of life is turned into a feeling of imprisonment. And I can definitely relate to that. Just a matter of finding a way through that. And I honestly think that finding something meaningful in life, like maybe Jordan B. Peterson is right about adopting responsibility. I don't know. It's a difficult subject because I haven't even found my, like, I found my way to being relatively okay, where I'm definitely not going to be committing suicide, but I can still definitely understand, like, well, how do I help? Because I have a good number of friends who have a hard time with depression and whatnot, and I try to, like, I do feel like maybe just being a friend and not just someone who talks about projects and technology with them, but maybe actually being emotional support, talking about the issues we need to talk about. Because otherwise, if we just talk to people just about, like, oh, did you see the new SpaceX video or whatever, like, it's shallow and it doesn't help. It can actually make things worse, because, like, if you're depressed, that can just make you, like, fucking hate everything because everyone else is shallow. That kind of harkens back to why, like, probably why I thought Aussie50's videos were so relatable, because they did mostly cover the projects, but you could definitely tell, like, there was a whole side to him that was omitted on purpose. And meanwhile, you have these, like, these super hyper, like, all happy and excited YouTube channels, which is, like, they're fucking sickening. I fucking hate them. Like, oh my fucking god. They make me want to fucking throw my computer away and unsubscribe from the internet, because it's like, well, they make me hate myself for not being as happy as them, and it's fucking sickening. But it's okay not to be happy. It's not okay to not be contented. Well, I mean, it's not like it's a fault of you. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's real sad that Aussie50 died. Real sad. But I can't fault him. He definitely gave a long run. Well, not long, but he didn't kill himself when he was like 14. Okay? Like, he obviously spent years and trying to find his direction, and maybe he did. I don't feel any right to criticize him. And most of all, what he left us was an enormous YouTube channel full of tens of thousands of, or not, well, not tens of thousands, thousands of videos that are, we can go back and watch them. He left a good mark on the world. Maybe not as much as he was capable of, but that ship has sailed. And it's a good time to take this as a reminder to try and be more emotionally supportive of people around you, and not just focus on yourself, because like a lot of suicide prevention talks are like, oh, you should remember people like you. It's like, well, no, you should talk to the people that are around the people that are depressed, and maybe they just can't tell. Like, if you know what to look for, you can fucking tell when someone's sad. Okay, because, well, I guess to me they just seem normal. They seem real. And I don't know. That's pretty much it. That's been a real roller coaster of emotions, I guess. So maybe I did have an emotional response. It's definitely sad. But I think that people really don't seem to understand the issue. And I worry that suicide rates are just going to get worse and worse in this country, because people don't realize the importance of meaningful social connections. And they put like an over-reliance in connections that aren't quite meaningful. Like, for instance, it took me a long time to realize that my family was just kind of ruining my life. Well, my extended family. Not my mom or my dad, but like my grandparents. And when I disowned them, like slowly over the years, my life got better, because I realized that every time I would see them, I would feel worse afterwards. And you have to, like, you have to then replace those people with people that actually mean something to you. And that's the most difficult part. That is the most difficult part. And I don't even know if I've really succeeded in that. I found a few people that are okay, but that's difficult, especially in this day and age. I don't know where else to go with this. So I guess I'll just say I was going to be passing Aussie50 pretty soon. Looks like that's not going to be such a happy milestone anymore. I kind of don't want to pass his YouTube channel. But hey, he's getting much more subscribers now that he's dead, and everyone's hearing about him. So maybe he'll have, maybe he'll still have more subscribers than me till the end of the year. That'd be good. Because I know it's not worth anything, but to me now, it's still kind of, it's always been, I started my YouTube channel when he had about 12,000 subscribers, and now he has 90,000, or well, his channel is at 90,000. And throughout all that time, I've always been thinking, like, one of these days I'm going to pass him. One of these days I'm going to pass him. But I guess I never will. Huh. That's a weird way to think about it. I never will pass Aussie50 because he quit when he was ahead. I like that. So I won't be passing Aussie50. I can get behind that. Yep. That's good. I'd like to hear all your guys' spicy opinions about what I've said. I know you're going to be very opinionated and probably unsubscribe, but it's just my true thoughts, and from someone who was in a very intimate relationship with suicide and depression and found their way so far. Yeah, I'd say I found my way. Yeah, I found my way. Yeah, because even now, like, I'm just like, man, I think it's pretty good actually. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there, and I hope you guys got something from this video. And because, like, the thing is, all those people that are like, oh, don't commit suicide, it's so sad, it's gonna pass, like, to someone who wants to commit suicide or is thinking about it, that is just the most fucking depressing thing ever, you know. And like, hearing somebody say, yeah, the world is shit and it's gonna take a lot of work to get through it, but there's a good chance you can, that's better. And especially if you hear people being like, if we just started being emotional support for other people. Because, like, did Aussie50 have any emotional support? Did you really? Like, just a couple friends online, that's not emotional support. You need meaningful relationships with people that you see almost every day. And we don't have that in this modern society, and we're going to have to fix that problem. We're going to have to figure out how to have long-standing social relationships and meaningful ones, and we have to work on being better emotional support for each other and better guidance for each other.